Well, hello there. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Olivias Corner. I am Olivia, and I talk about D&D and tell stories, and if that's something you're interested in following along with, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Another thing I do is talk about writing movies, because I'm in school for writing movies. So that's fun. This week we're going to talk about something that is hot on my mind and near and dear to my heart, which is autism. Some of you may have noticed that a lot of new studies and new information has been coming out recently about autism, and a lot of people are going, oh my gosh, maybe I have that. This is me telling you that I recently found out that I am autistic. So that's cool. What's your superpower? All fun and games aside, I thought that in sharing this information with you, my beloved viewers, I would tell you some of the misnomers about it so that you might be a little bit more informed. And if you've heard this before, maybe it'll be a good refresher. I've been doing a lot of research and finding a lot of people with similar experiences to mine, and very much like discovering that I'm gay, there were a lot of, oh my gosh, I've done that my whole life. I didn't know that was weird. Is that weird to other people? That's weird to other people. Huh, okay. And a lot of the signs started to click. So, most of the research for the last century or so on autism has been on boys, specifically like little boys, and a little bit on men. For a long time, there have been sort of two categories of autism. People refer to, people with autism as either high functioning or low functioning. And I'm here to tell you that if you're not aware, the autistic community has decided that these are not helpful stereotypes. I'm going to tell you why. So when I say that I'm autistic, it technically means that I have autism spectrum disorder. If you've heard of Asperger's or Asperger's, as I've heard it pronounced, that is not a thing anymore. It all falls under this sort of title of ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So I'm going to give you some fun facts that I learned about ASD and tell you what my symptoms look like. And that's what we're going to do today. So first of all, I want to say that there's every chance in the world that I'm explaining this in a way that's not helpful for you. And if that's the case, I would love for you to check out some other resources. I recently found a YouTuber called Yosemite Sam, which is a woman who got diagnosed when she was 33. And started a series of YouTube videos explaining what she was learning, how she got diagnosed, whether or not it was worth it, how it works being a mom and being diagnosed with autism, some of the misnomers, some of the traits and what they look like, some of the really harmful ways that people talk about it. I highly recommend her channel. I've learned so much just from watching her, and she's done a ton of research, so it's partially research and partially just her experience in the world and her experience in the community of autistic people. So it's wonderful and super helpful, and I highly recommend her. One of the things I learned is that the reason that they say that calling someone high functioning or low functioning is not helpful is that the classification used to be that if you were an autistic person with an IQ below, I believe, 70, like below 68-ish, then you were considered low functioning, and if you're above that, then it's high functioning. This brings up a lot of problems, because if you were just called low functioning, then it means that you need constant care, but you have no ability for relationship, or people completely bypass you being a human being and just go straight to how to manage your I don't want to say symptoms, your traits. On the other hand, if people say, okay, well, you're high functioning, a lot of people get missed in needing help, needing care, needing someone to help them figure out how to communicate their symptoms and traits. And that is harmful because people get missed, and that sucks. One of the things that super helps with autism spectrum disorder as a title is that as a disorder that is a spectrum, everybody has different traits because people are individuals. And so if you've heard A, B, and C are the traits of autism and you meet someone who doesn't have those traits, it doesn't mean they're not autistic. One of the most interesting things that I learned in researching autism in women is that young women, little girls who have autism, do a whole bunch of camouflaging or masking, which is when you have inappropriate reactions to things, inappropriate ways of behaving, and the world tells you that they're inappropriate, and you go, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. You can tell that I'm weird when I do that. I'm gonna cover that up and not do that and do something else instead. This is not a trait that little boys often have, and it is one of the reasons that so many little girls get missed in getting a diagnosis.
Hey, it's your pal Editing Olivia here. Because I feel like I'm doing a terrible job describing my distinction from neurotypical people, the way I'm describing this might sound like a normal part of learning to navigate the world and growing as a kid. The distinction for me is the effort involved. It took a lot of effort or energy for me to recognize what I was doing was weird, and a lot of effort in trying to practice not being strange. I was still a weird kid. The other thing is a lot of kids can tell when they're doing something weird and naturally adapt to try to fit in and blend in. It took people telling me that I was being strange, or saying out loud, or giving me very obvious looks as a separate part from the group, for me to understand that something that I was doing was weird. And that's when I changed it.
The other thing is that you've probably heard, if you've done any research on autism, that people with autism have hyperfixations, have their thing that they're super into, and some, it could be trains, or, a specific model of cars, or something like that. In little girls with autism, it's typically something that's a lot more socially acceptable and that lots of other little girls already have obsessions with. So it also doesn't seem like a hyperfixation because it's just a trait. For example, I can categorize my life with fandoms. I've said that before. I remember the years where I thought that I was going to be needing a tattoo of these different things. I had a Twilight phase. I had a Doctor Who phase. Definitely a huge Harry Potter phase when I was finally allowed to read them and watch them. Right now is probably my hyperfixation is Dungeons and Dragons. I could talk to you for hours about Dungeons and Dragons. And I have. There are people I've talked to for hours and hours and hours about Dungeons and Dragons. This is normal for people with autism. I've often thought, wow, I'm way more obsessed with this thing than other people are. I must just be special. And the truth is, I am. That feels a lot less cocky when I'm saying, hi, I'm autistic and my hyperfixations are valid.
Me again. When talking about hyperfixation, one of the distinctions that I feel I need to make is that whereas some people like TV show episodes, I tried to recount entire episodes of Doctor Who to my dad, and he had to say, Olivia, I love you, I care about what you care about, I don't want to hear every detail of the episode. That was weird to me and kind of hurt my feelings. Why wouldn't he want to know every detail of the show that I loved? The hard thing is I can tell when people don't care about what I'm talking about, but I can't figure out how much is too much, if that makes sense. How much is appropriate. I don't like that word, but appropriate to share. It does make me really good at attention to detail, though.
I could spend the next 45 minutes trying to recite all of the research that I've done on all of this that validates my experience, but I don't need to do that. My experience is valid whether you believe me or not. The other thing I want to talk about is if you are someone who says, oh, you don't look autistic, I want to tell you to please hold your thoughts, because that's super dismissive and actually not helpful at all. I hear you, I understand, when you meet someone and they tell you something like that, and you're trying to be supportive or encouraging. But the same way that when I tried to come out to my dad 4 years before I actually discovered that I'm gay, and he said, you're not gay, that was incredibly dismissive and harmful to my growth. It's not helpful to say, well, you don't look autistic, because yeah, of course I don't. I've been masking all my life. One of my fears is that in discovering all of this, I will start trying to peel back the layers of masking and stop covering up things that I have built into my routines that make me uncomfortable. and people will say, and this is from a video that I watched, oh, you started acting autistic after you discovered that you were autistic. Like, are you faking it now? And no, the truth is I'm peeling back things that make me uncomfortable. I don't think anybody who loves me would say something like that to me, but it still kind of makes me uncomfortable that it could happen. One of the beautiful things about discovering that I'm autistic is that my hundreds and hundreds of hours obsessing over D&D and writing stories and watching stories and consuming content for D&D and lore things makes so much more sense. My fixation with everything makes so much more sense. One of the traits of specifically, not that this can't happen in men, but has been exhibited in women with autism, is being really, really emotional and really sensitive to emotional things. Any of my friends can tell you that I cry watching commercials. It's not a spoiler for me to tell you that I watched this movie and I cried. I cry in most movies. Another fun little tidbit is that I often burst into tears. I guess I can't say often, but it seems like an overwhelming swell of emotion that people don't see coming, and my dad has expressed seeing it, one of my good friends has expressed seeing it, and they love it when it happens. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, we're crying now. Probably an autism thing. One of the things that I personally have largely experienced as a person with autism is that it really bothers me when people talk to me like something's obvious, because it's really not obvious to me. So that might be a thing that neurotypicals also experience, just like don't talk to me like it's obvious when it's not obvious to me. But like, sometimes I don't understand when people are making jokes or what the joke is. I really like puns because they're usually really clear as to what the joke is. And one of the things that I think that I have accidentally been doing for myself my whole life is, if you know me, you know that I'm someone who cares about precision of language. I really like having the exact word that expresses what I'm trying to say. And I think that that has been my experience in trying to not be misunderstood. I read that a lot of people with autism feel constantly misunderstood, and it's extremely stressful to be in social... Let me rewind a little bit. One of the traits that I had read that I was like, no, that's not something I have a hard time with, was that people with autism are uncomfortable in social situations. And I was like, okay, define uncomfortable, because yes, but also no. And for me, I get uncomfortable when I don't know what the expectations are of other people, and it feels like everyone else knows what the expectations are and I don't. Really stresses me out. I watched someone else talking about their experience with autism, and one of the things that they expressed was that when they were diagnosed, they found, they told the person that was diagnosing them, like, I don't have trouble in social situations. And the person said, okay, but you've just told me that when you are done with social situations, you are extremely burnt out, you're exhausted, you have to go away and recuperate even though you're an extrovert, because they're super draining for you. And a lot of that comes from a huge fear of miscommunication. So I think that my hyperfixation on language has a lot to do with not wanting to be misunderstood. Why am I telling you all of this? This is a lot of personal and researchy information that is a little bit vulnerable to be telling you. And part of why I wanted to stop skipping around it and thinking around it is I'm probably just gonna start saying it, like, oh, I'm autistic, and I don't want to have a 45-minute conversation with every person that I meet trying to explain what I mean when I say this. So it would be nice for people to just know, and then I can say, might be an autism thing, or explain different things about how I interact with people. And if they don't understand, I'm just going to be like, go watch my video, because I don't have the emotional capacity to explain this to every person that needs to know it. So there you go. If you have questions pertaining to my personal experience with different traits of autism, with my childhood experiences with autistic things, If you want to talk about your own experiences and questions about it, I would love for you to message me or comment them below. If you have questions about the research, please just go look it up. There are plenty of resources, literally, if you just look it up. So, YouTube has a great wealth of information, literally at your fingertips. I hope I didn't overwhelm you with a whole bunch of information just now. I hope this was entertaining or at least informative. And if it wasn't, I don't know what to tell you. Thank you for showing up and staying tuned in for all of this and listening along. I hope that you, I don't know, learned something, I guess. If not about me, then about autism and how it works. Yeah. I'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye. Here are your lovely deleted scenes. I've been thinking about a new intro after this video drops, and thinking about, like, I could just start introducing myself as, like, hi, I'm Olivia, your autistic lesbian creative. Welcome to my channel. This is my corner. You're in my corner. Good job. I don't know. What are good ways to introduce myself? I want something that's like a slogan, you know? Does that make sense? Olivias Corner. I mean, I guess I don't need all of my definers in my title, but it sounds like fun. And aren't we here for what's fun? I think we are. Wow, I was really worried that I was gonna get on here and not know what to say, and then I just word vomited for like 10 minutes. It's a lot of information. Nope, we're good. Okay, well that sucked a lot less than I thought it was going to.